We have fire. I think it's burning down pretty good now. Hello, welcome back to another episode from Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. I'm Bill. Glad you could join me. I'm embarking on another project, and I thought I would move back into the Stone Age and work on some Paleolithic projects. So this episode is going to cover the construction of a stone hatchet. So with that said, stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. What we have in front of us here is a couple of granite boulders, and there's actually a lot of granite up here. I was kind of exploring around, and I ran across this one here, and it has a lot of fractures in it. And this area gets snow in the wintertime, so over a period of years, the repeated freezing and heating has fractured some of these boulders up here. And this up here I found pretty interesting. Have a really fractured area here, and these come right off. I was kind of looking at this, and I thought, you know, that might make a pretty good hatchet, but I'm really worried. It's really thin. I don't think it's going to hold up to repeated blows. I think it would be a lot of work for something that's going to break, but I can find other uses for this. It's a nice sharp edge. Might be able to make a stone knife or something out of it. And there's some little pieces here. This make a pretty good little drill bit. Some material here for future videos. It's a decent little cutting tool here. It's another drill bit. It's actually a nice one. I half that into a bow drill spindle. That would actually probably make a pretty good, be another video there. I'm just going to leave these resources up here. And there's other pieces here. Here's another. It's another nice piece here. So, like I said, I think this piece is going to be too, for a hatchet, it's going to be a little too thin. But I was exploring around and I found some other pieces. One I broke over here, and I used what's called a bipolar reduction technique on that, and I'm actually going to demonstrate that for you guys. It's anytime you're reducing stone down, whether it's obsidian. Obsidian is a stone, even though it's glass. It's a metamorphic rock, which is formed from igneous rock. This would be considered igneous or volcanic rock. And granite is crystalline, and it contains various amounts of feldspar, quartz, etc. And each piece of granite will, depending on the area, will vary in those components. But igneous rock that is under a lot of pressure and heat will produce marble and metamorphic rock like marble and obsidian, among other stones. That's just a few examples. And then of course you have your sedimentary rock, which we're not going to get into today, which is sandstone and whatnot. But I have over here, this is a piece that, let me take this hammerstone over here with me. Yeah, I think I'm going to do a few Paleolithic videos Lithic has to do with stone, and paleo means in the past or ancient times. So Paleolithic means Stone Age, the working of stone. And I believe that was about 2.5 million years ago when ancient man began to fashion stone tools and implements. So this here was a piece of this, and I broke it in half using a bipolar reduction technique. Now this is the one I think I'm going to use for a hatchet. And if you look at it, you can see the volcanic aspect of this, and this is almost basalt. It's really hard, and I'm thinking this edge here would make a really good cutting edge. And you can see it's wedged like a hatchet. This would be the back side. So what I would do is I would have to haft this into a handle, a suitable branch. I think I already have one picked out over here that I'm going to use. And I'm going to use pine. I have a fallen pine here. I know oak would be better, but I'm going to have to cut a groove in. And my plan is to do it completely primitively with this project with no modern conveniences. And since the Forest Service has banned fires up here right now, we're in the middle of the fire season, so I cannot coal burn a groove, a slot into a branch to accept the backside of this. I want to slot it so it'll slide into the branch, and this will be the cutting edge, so when it's hit, it'll be forced back into that groove. It should be a pretty secure setup. You can see up here how it's wedged. This would be the cutting edge here, so. And it's just almost basalt. I mean, it's really strong stuff. It does scratch my thumbnail. That's one test you can test the hardness of a stone, which means it's at least a 3 or a 4 on Mohs scale of hardness. And then I tried it on my knife blade, and it did scratch the steel, so it's probably close to a 6. Probably pretty close to quartz. I don't have my my steel striker with me. If I did, I could see if it'll throw a spark. And if it does, then it's harder than steel. But it did put a scratch in the spine of my knife. So that's telling me that it's harder than steel. So it should make a pretty good hatchet. So with that said, I'm going to demonstrate the bipolar reduction technique, and then we'll go over to the stump. I'm going to knock this little piece off the bottom here. And I really don't have much else I have to do to this piece. It's pretty much ready made. So stay tuned, I shall be back. Okay, we're going to go ahead and split this in half, and the way you do that is with a you can use this technique on river cobbles, pretty much any stone. And this is known as bipolar reduction. It's a percussion technique, or bipolar fracturing as it's also known as. And whenever you're working with a raw piece of stone, whether it's just a river cobble or this piece for instance, it's known as a blank before you start working on it. And just as this piece is a blank, well, it's a little bit less than a blank because I've already busted it off here and did a little bit of shaping on it. So I've taken it from a blank into a partially completed piece. So the way the bipolar fracturing or bipolar reduction works is you want to get a nice solid anvil stone to work on. And this one has a ridge on top, as you can see. So you want to sit your piece on top of this squarely. And the ridge is right about in the center of this. And how bipolar reduction works you take a hammer stone, a nice solid hammer stone, and you want to come down onto the top of the blank. The force goes through the blank and it impacts your anvil stone and then rebounds back up to the source of impact. That's why it's known as bipolar. And if it's done correctly, it will break a blank in half. Doesn't work exactly that way all the time because there's nothing written in stone in this. There could be internal fractures inside of a blank. Depending on the crystalline structure of the piece you're working with, it doesn't always break true. Sometimes it'll just break into a bunch of pieces or whatever. So that's just the risk you take when you're reducing stone and working with stone. So with that said, I'm going to see if we can bust this here. I'll find a suitable edge here to work with. I don't want to miss that edge and hit my fingers, so that ought to work. I've got a nice ridge here, so I'm going to come right down on it, combined with this ridge here. Theoretically, it should break. And watch your eyes when you're doing this. You should wear safety glasses. If you're in a primitive situation, of course you don't have that. One technique, just as you're striking, is to close your eyes. I mean, it's your personal judgment, but definitely be mindful of the fact that pieces could fly off and strike you in the eyes, and that wouldn't be a good thing. You want to come straight down, and you want to strike through the object. In other words, just kind of think your way through the object. And that didn't break. And we broke a piece off of it. Didn't break. Boy, that thing's hard. I'm really thinking this is almost basalt. I did break this other piece off earlier, and how I did that was I just laid it flat. So let's see if we can get it to cooperate this way. None of this is written in stone. See if we can hit that depression right there. There we go. And that is, it broke it clean. And that is a bipolar reduction technique. This is some really tough stuff. It has a good crystalline structure on the inside too. You can really see that. I'm just going to leave these pieces here for either future projects, or maybe another person will come along and need a couple of stones for something. But this is the piece that came off of that earlier, and I think this is going to make a pretty good little hatchet head here. So let's go over and knock this little piece off, and I'll show you how to perform lithic reduction, and then we'll harvest a handle for this. Stay tuned. Okay, I'm over here at the old trusty stump, and here it is. Use this as the hammer stone, and this is actually made of the same stuff that I'm working with here, so it's at least as hard. And I'm just going to knock this little edge off here. Now, when you're reducing stone, there's a few techniques. There's pressure flaking, as in that's used in flint knapping. That's other things we'll explore in future videos. The common technique for this is known as pecking, And that's where you just you continually strike the stone with another stone, and you're removing little pieces of the stone as you work. And that's known as lithic reduction, and the technique is known as pecking. This little piece here will just knock off. Now when you do that, you don't want to have it on an anvil stone like we had just a second ago when we broke the other blank in half. Because what's going to happen is, as you're pecking away, you're setting up a bipolar reduction. The shock wave is going down and back up through your blank, and you risk breaking the piece you're working on. So what you want to do when you're performing pecking or lithic reduction, you want to hold it either in your hand and use your anvil stone. And it's very labor intensive and very time consuming. Primitive man used to make bowls. They'd take a rock and they'd peck out the center and make a bowl. Native Americans would do that. And it is a lot of work. Now you can put it on a wooden stump like this because it's not solid, so it's not going to set up a bipolar situation. And you just peck away. And the reason why I was working on this is because there was a ridge here, an edge. When I halved this into, that's the cutting edge, when I halved this into a handle, I wanted to kind of knock that edge down. It stood out a little bit further, about 1/8 of an inch. I managed to knock that down. I'll probably work on this just a little bit here. And I'm going to leave the back side as it is, and this side's fine over here. And the front looks really good, so let's knock this little edge off. So to do that, we're just going to stick it right up here on the edge of the stump, and just like that, just knock it right off. And I'm not going to mess around with the front anymore here. I don't want to compromise this this piece here. What I want to do is I want to take this over before I invest time in slotting a handle and hafting this piece into a handle. I want to use this as a hand axe first. I'm going to take it over to some wood and chop away a little bit with it, and see how it performs, and just to verify that this edge is going to hold up and it's not going to break apart. It'd be a lot of work to go and custom fit this into a handle and start chopping away, and then only to find out that the contact surface here isn't going to work for us. So let's go ahead and take it over to a piece of wood and give it a try. Stay tuned. Okay, I'm over here at a fallen pine that I've done a number of projects with. This tree has provided a lot of resources for several videos recently. So anyways, I'm going to use this as a hand axe, which you can use something like this way. It's a little rougher on the hands, obviously, but I just want to ascertain that this thing is going to hold up. Well, remove bark, okay. A little rough on the hands. Well, doesn't seem to be doing too bad. I'm going to go over on the other side here. Ooh, boy, that's rough on the hands. Definitely need a handle for this. Yeah, this is definitely definitely some hard stuff here. I think it's going to work okay. It hasn't even phased this edge at all, and it's obviously chopping into it. Yeah, I think we're a go for a handle. Got myself good with that saw. Always be safe. It can happen quick. It's a good one right there. That saw jumped out of that thing on me and nailed me right in the finger. Ouch. Alright, and I did use my saw. I know I said I was going to go primitive on this, but trying to chop that piece by hand with this thing would absolutely destroy my hands, and I got destroyed anyways. So I have a piece of pine here. The main concern with this is it thick enough to accommodate this head? Because you don't want, when it's slotted, you don't want it too thin on the sides, because the impact can break that. It'll sit in about here, and that's going to leave about 3/8 of an inch on either side here. Could always wrap it with some tree roots for a little extra security, but I don't want to invest all the time in slotting this, and this is all I'm going to have on the sides. There's another way I could half this too, using the green bow. I'm going to have to give this a little bit of thought. Anywho, stay tuned, I shall return. I gotta go doctor a wound. Hey, welcome back. I took the liberty of cutting a larger handle. The other one I think was a little bit too skinny. Too skinny rather to accept the stone head. So I have this piece. I debarked it, cut it, debarked it, and I have it in a primitive camp vise that I constructed, and I shot a video on how to make this vise from natural materials. So I'll go ahead and I'll put a link to that in the description. But what we need to do now, so this is in here nice and firm, and this will hold the handle while we hollow out this area here to accept the stone hatchet head. What I'm going to do is break some rocks and see if we can get some stone chisels or some pieces that would work as stone chisels, and then start working this down. So let's go see what we can do with that. Stay tuned. Hey guys, I'm back. The stone chisels just weren't cutting it, and so I decided to I broke out the knife, and so it's going to be a primitive stone hatchet. The only modern implement in its construction will be a knife. So I just started planing this down here, and I'm going to plane this down probably about, I would say probably 40% of the way down, and then I'll start hollowing out the inside and then flip it over and plane the other side, and leaving so much on the sides for strength, and then just kind of custom fit the stone head in. But I still have quite a bit of stone work to do on the head. I need to reduce the thickness and do a little bit of shaping on it. So, but I went ahead and I wanted to show you guys this part and be honest with you that I started using a knife. So I'm going to go ahead and keep working this thing down, and I'll start the camera back up with some updates here and there on the progress, and then we'll work this. I'll start working that lithically reducing the width of that stone hatchet head. So stay tuned. I will be back. The knife came through. Let's get this thing unhooked here. And I'm about ready to call it a day for this one. Next week, hopefully, we can get this project finished. And the vise worked out great. Unbelievably well, actually. This is what I've got. I did that with the knife. I still have, here's the back side. I'm not going to do a whole lot on the back. I want it more narrow back here to leave as much wood as possible on the side. This is pine. It's the hardest wood that I have available here in this immediate area. Otherwise, I'd recommend a harder wood for this. So when I put it together, I'm not going to push it too hard when I'm chopping on something. But just got to do a little. Well, actually, it doesn't look bad. I don't think I really have to do much cleanup at all. Just custom fit that stone head in. It's right here. It'll slide in. Whoop, go this way. So I need to custom fit the stone to fit that, so you can see it's. Whoop, it is. Make sure I had it facing the right way. So I need to take a little bit off the top here. It looks like the height is pretty good, aside from this little piece here that's keeping it from sliding in. The width, actually it might not be bad once this is out of the way. It may just slide in okay. So it's not bad. Once that little top's out of the way, it'll seat back in there. We'll go in about halfway, and that'll be the stone hatchet. I may lash it with rawhide lashing. I'm not sure yet. I'll see how it works. If it stays put, pushes back in there and stays put, then I may not have to do anything. But lashing it, since it's pine, may be a good idea to help brace this wood. Actually, I'll probably wind up doing that because it's the only weak part about it. And then I'm going to shave the rest of the handle down smaller so it's more comfortable in the hand. So that'll be the next project there. Stay tuned. I will be back. Hey, welcome back. I have a piece of rawhide here that I obtained from the pet store. I just bought a 3-pack of rawhide chews, non-flavored, and you soak those in water for about 24 hours. They'll reconstitute, become soft, and you unroll it and you have yourself a piece of rawhide. I mean, you can tan this stuff and make leather out of it. So I'm assuming it's probably cowhide. So anyways, I've had this soaking, and I'm going to cut this into strips, and I have the stone head into the handle here. I've chipped away on it a bit to get it to fit. This isn't an ideal stone for this. I mean, you could spend a lot more time and find yourself a good river cobble and sand it on another stone and get an edge on it and everything, and really make one to fit. But I'm just using what I have available up here in the high country. So So this is what I have right now. So we're going to secure this with a rawhide binding. And how we're going to cut this is, I'm going to take my knife, baton it into a tree here. It's nice and stable and sturdy. Excuse my allergies. Now when you cut cordage, lacing or cordage from rawhide, you start from the outer perimeter and work your way around in a spiral manner until you reach the center. They don't have to be exact. You could be off just a little bit and it's still going to work fine. And it's a little thin out here on the edge. Real thin, in fact. I'm actually considering trimming that off. Just the very edge here as we get into the thicker material. I think I'll probably do that. Just be careful with your fingers if you're going to use this method. Get a little more of this here. Yeah, that edge was really thin, so this is pretty consistent in thickness now. And I'm going to cut this lacing probably, oh, I don't know, 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch wide. So this is the time-consuming part of the operation. And again, if it's a little wavy, that's okay. You don't have to be exact. You can use scissors if you want. I just try to, I'm a minimalist. I try to make as much use as I can out of my knife. That way it's just less gear that I have to carry. It's known as redundancies. It makes a lot of other gear redundant. So you're better to go a little wide here than too thin. Thin may break on you. And then these corners here you can just swing wide. The reason why I'm pulling upwards on this is because if I was going downward, I'm going to have less control over the rawhide because gravity is going to be pulling it down. Here gravity's working to my advantage. It keeps the surplus below and out of the way. If it was above, it would be flopping over. The nice thing about rawhide, you put it on wet, it shrinks as it dries. That's why traditional drum heads are made out of shamanic and Native American drum heads as well as other cultures. As it dries, it shrinks. And it'll dry as hard as a rock. It's really good at securing things. You can make bowstrings out of this. Makes very good bowstrings. I'll do a video on that. Probably won't be till next year. I'm gonna have to spend some time and find a good bow stave out in the woods, and I'll go through the complete process of selecting, cutting, crafting a bow, right down to curing it properly, along with the arrows and the arrowheads, using feathers as nocks, or fletching rather. And one of these chews will provide an amazing amount of cordage. I mean, I've already got this much out of this already, probably a good 4.5 foot. So we'll probably wind up with, oh, I wouldn't surprise me if we get 20 feet of cordage out of this. I paid, what did I pay over there? I think it was less than $10 at the pet store for a 3-pack, so I still have 2 left that I'll use for other projects. Flopped over my knife. I was wondering why it wasn't cooperating. I'll be doing more videos on the various uses of rawhide. Probably going to wind up with a lot more than we're going to need for this job, so if that's the case, I'll just coil up the excess and it will harden, and I'll use it for other projects in the future. And again, you just soak it and reconstitute it. I'm in a little bit different area. Well, same area. I'm deeper in the woods. I found a trail and decided to follow it, and I'm way back, not as deep as I could be. There's trails that go back 35 miles straight back into the wilderness here, which I want to explore in the future. I'm in the process of doing work on my rock crawler, so I'm going to add a couple 5-gallon jerry cans. I'm not going in that deep without extra fuel. So these are about roughly 3/8 of an inch wide here. And again, you don't have to be right on the money. If you're off a little bit, that's okay. Good sharp knife, it cuts very easily, as long as it's reconstituted and soft. And shit, guys, we got this much cordage already, and with this much still to go, so I'd say we'll get probably 20 foot out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera. I don't think you guys want to sit for the next 10 minutes and watching me do this. I think you got the general idea, so I'll be back in just a few. Stay tuned. Okay, I just finished this off. Give you an idea of what we have here. And that is from one rawhide chew. And I'm going to go ahead and reposition the camera, and we can go ahead and start wrapping that that handle and finish hafting that stone hatchet head into the handle. Stay tuned, I'll be back. Okay. Got the camera repositioned here. Ooh, carpenter ant trying to attack me. Alright, so what we're going to do here, I want to reinforce the top and bottom of this from the force of the blows so the wood doesn't split. And then we're going to figure eight around this stone here a bit. So first thing we're going to do, make a loop. Run your tag end down. I'm going to start at the bottom here. And I'm going to cut this and shape it. It's not going to be this long. Apologize for the gunshot. Somebody's apparently target shooting back here in the woods. This is the way you would whip the end of a rope to keep it from unraveling. It's the same Same idea here. Okay, that's as far as I want to go. We still have the loop open here, and that is where we will terminate this. Just leave the loop open. Make sure you don't bury your loop. Keep your loop out. I'm only going to run a few passes around this because we're going to do the same thing at the top. I have the rest of this in some water down here. It tends to dry pretty fast. Okay, so what we're going to do here is trying to keep some tension on here. Find the end and run the end through the loop. Right through that loop. Just pull it through. You wrap the stuff on. You can put it on snug, but you don't have to put it on tight, because remember, it's going to dry. It's going to shrink considerably as it dries. Just put it on snug. If you pull it too tight, when it's wet, you run the risk of breaking it. Okay, so we have it through the loop here. Give it some slack. Go down to the bottom now, where we left this tag in originally. We're going to pull that tag in. And what that's going to do, that's going to pull that inside on itself. This is a compression nut. And there we go. So we take this, we're going to cut it. We're going to do the same thing at the top, except this is going to be a much shorter version of what we just did here. Take this and cut it. And this can be cut off after it's dry. So this is what I'm doing. Just running another loop. I'm trying to get a good camera angle here, and it's a little unwieldy. Okay, so just remember, keep your loop open here. Just wrap it up onto itself. We're going to do the same thing here as we did with the last one. We're going to figure eight it around. When you're soaking rawhide, to soften it up, change the water once or twice a day. Otherwise it's going to stagnate on you. It'll start to stink, and the rawhide will begin to get slippery feeling. And that's decomposition. I'm going to throw a little more on here just until it feels right. If the axe head ever shatters and I have to replace it, just soak the whole top of this in water until the cordage becomes soft, and unwrap it. It can still be used, and rawhide's amazingly durable. And another stone can be machined to fit this handle. So basically it can be used until, well, I guess till the handle breaks. Carpenter ant's trying to get me here. Okay, so now we're going to terminate this. So we came around here. Run it through the loop. Keep tension on it. Come up to the tag end. Ooh, I'm getting attacked here. I must be on an ant mound. Ran it through the loop to terminate it. Keep tension on this. Come up to the top to our tail. Pull that and let it sink that, let it draw that strand inside here. You may have to and this stuff is really strong even when it's wet, but just want to be careful not to break it. There we go. Probably seen that sink up in there. It's pulling that loop up in. And I'll go ahead and leave these on just in case shrinkage pulls a little bit of these in, these tag ends, and I'll just trim these off when after this is dry. Just trim them off flush. So this is what we have. Let's tag in there. So go ahead and let this do its thing, dry and solidify. And once that's done, I'm going to cut this handle back to probably about here, so it's a comfortable hatchet length. And I'm going to taper this down a little bit so it fits my hand a little bit better. So this is where we are, guys. When I come back, we'll go ahead and finish this off and trim this up, and then take it out for a test. See how well it does. Stay tuned. I will be back. Hello, welcome back. I finally finished the hatchet here, or axe. It's probably closer to an axe with a small head. I decided to leave the length on the handle here simply because it has some heft to it, and I think it's a little too much weight to be used as a hatchet. And I went ahead and I kind of chopped the handle down and tapered it so it's a little more comfortable in the hand. The rawhide is dry, I trimmed off the tag ends that were sticking out, and I mean, this stuff is hard as a rock. It really hafted this head in nicely. Get up here a little closer so you guys can see it. It really shrunk down on this, and I mean, it's hard as a rock. Rawhide is great stuff to work with. So anyways, without further ado, let's go see, let's test this guy out and see how well it does. On a live tree. This one here is dead, and it's probably, I would say it's probably about 20 feet tall, at least what's left of it. And I just kind of looked around and I said, oh, okay, this one will work for our demonstration here. So I'm going to go ahead and I did a few little test swings on it here, and it seems to work okay. A homemade axe rather, or a hatchet isn't going to work as well as a store-bought one, obviously. And usually the idea is to get it chopped most of the way through and then try and break it the rest of the ways. That usually works with one made from natural materials, but they are better than nothing. Seems to be getting the job done. I'm going to peel out of my hoodie. Already starting to break the sweat. A little chilly up here this morning, and windy. You can probably hear it up here on the mountaintop. Woo! It's a workout. This thing's actually pretty hefty. It's obviously getting the job done. Nowhere near as efficiently as a store-bought axe or hatchet, obviously, but for something made from natural materials, if you had nothing else to work with, you'll get the job done. And this head seems to be holding up nicely. This is basalt and granite, as we just examined earlier in this episode. The handle's holding up great. I was starting to really put a swing on that. The rawhide wrapping, securing the head in, and also bracing this handle. This is just pine. It's doing a really good job. And you can see the head's held up great. I haven't lost any pieces off of it. There's no chipping. Whew. And I think that's about as far as I'm gonna go on that for demonstration purposes, so I'm not gonna go all the way through that. I'm gonna up here filming another video, so I don't want to wear myself out for that one. But it does get the job done. Probably another, I don't know, another 20 minutes of work on this. I'd probably get it reduced, chopped through enough to push it over. Enjoyed the video as much as I did making it. Please like, subscribe, and share. And as always, I will see all of you very soon on the next one. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.